Jadon Sancho at Manchester United is reportedly close to being over with a £25 million deal to Juve, reported to be completing soon. We're also taking a look at Rasmus Hoyland. It has now been stated that it's unlikely he remains at Old Trafford next season. Plus, with Arsenal closing in on two brand new transfers to bolster their squad. One of them, listen, it's got everybody talking. Arsenal fans are buzzing. And according to the latest report, it could be done at any moment. Make sure you've liked, make sure you're subscribed, get that bell notification turned on. Let's go. It was reported this morning by Fabrizio Romano that Eze is keen on joining Arsenal this summer and is attracted by the prospect of joining Mikel Arteta's project. Now, since this news came out, a number of different stories have emerged, including this, that with Eze, that is a deal Arsenal could get wrapped up in the next hour if they wanted to. Eze is desperate for it. There are rumors, but I don't know where from, that Crystal Palace are willing to deal under the release clause. And listen, I think this is obviously maybe a slight exaggeration about the deal maybe getting done within the next hour, but certainly not from the player's perspective. It does now appear this would explain why Tottenham pulled away. This would explain why Arsenal were the front runners, that Eze wants to essentially go home, become an Arsenal player again, and play his trade at the Emirates Stadium. Now, of course, Arsenal are trying to do that, and they're within their rights to do this, especially if the player is going to commit to them and says he wants nobody else. They're doing everything in their power to drive the price down, and that's important. And you'll have some that will say, no, just pay it and get it done. But if you can get him under that, if you can get him under the release clause, if you can get better payment terms, if you can create a deal which financially is better for Arsenal, it is always worthwhile exploring that as an option. However, I do understand that Arsenal fans want to see deals get done. They want to see deals over the line. They want to move on to other targets, essentially. But this really does feel like a transfer that Arsenal are closing in on, and it feels it's heating up quite quickly. Just a week ago, Ben Jacobs on the Football Terrace announced he's on the list. We are now down to the player is agreeing to join, wants to join, is bending over backwards and desperate for it. These reports are coming out, but I want to know what you think and what you feel. It's also been reported by Fabrizio Romano that Christian Mosquera, I absolutely just butchered his name there, I know. Plans remain clear. He wants to join Arsenal's project despite the new contract proposal from Valencia. Full focus on negotiations with Arsenal as personal terms are agreed, and a new bid will be needed after the opening €14 million bid was rejected. Now, Mosquera is a player that, again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know loads about. I've read things since, and there's a real prospect in there. But it's another player who wants to join Arsenal. Another deal that, and I just remember Arsenal a few years ago trying to sign Vlahovic, putting the bid in, getting the bid accepted, but no contact with the player, being rejected by the player, calls being ignored. It was such, I keep hearing Arsenal fans now say what we're doing is embarrassing. For me, I get, listen, I'm not emotional about Arsenal, so maybe I remember things differently. But that was what I called embarrassing, and I called it out at the time. This, whether it's fringe players, up-and-coming players, first teamers like Eze wanting to join, this is massive. So another deal that looks fairly imminent at this point. It said a bit of around €20 million should get this over the line. Now, talking about important deals, according to reports in Italy this evening, Jadon Sancho and Juve are now close to a full agreement. Of course, Jadon Sancho has been demanding and wanting the same salary that he's earning at Manchester United. It now appears that he is going to take a slight reduction. And I'm glad to hear this, because my gut feeling, unless he goes to play in Saudi next year, was always, okay, you're on 250 a week. You don't want to drop to 100,000. I get that. You don't want to, you don't want to drop by a penny in reality. But where Jadon Sancho had to be careful is that to turn down some really good offers to earn 250K a week for the next 12 months, he's offering in 12 months' time, if the loan, he doesn't get a good loan move, if there's other players that are now more desirable, his new deal might be significantly less. Then over a 3 to 4 year period from today, he may earn a lot less money. So from my point of view and perspective, I feel as though he's doing the right thing. It's a good bit of business for Juve. There is also talk that the transfer fee will be in the region of £25 million. If this report is true, it's fantastic business for Man United. One, we're actually making a profit on the player in this financial year by somewhere in the region of about £10 million. The wages would be gone, which again is a saving of over £10 million. So United suddenly will have, outside of what they budgeted for, an additional £20 million to put towards transfers, or more importantly, the salary of new players. So this is fantastic business if indeed this report comes to fruition. Now, what I also like about it, it would prove another point that Man United were right not to panic. It was only 10 days ago that these reported moves to Italy were on the verge of collapsing because a player wouldn't yield on his wages. And Man United at the time were being asked to cover that cost. And as I said at the time, and like a lot of United fans said, well, if we cover the cost, we end up neutralizing any transfer fee we get. Or if they pay the salary but pay us a lesser transfer fee, we're going to lose money on Jadon Sancho this financial year. And losing money on Jadon Sancho is just ridiculous. One, you're losing the negotiation battle. You're making no money from him to invest in new contracts or new players. Yet he and Juve or he and Napoli, they would get everything that they wanted. And this was why it was important just 10 days ago for Man United not to panic and just go, okay, quick, we'll get rid of him quickly so that by pre-season it's definitely done. They've held on. Negotiations have continued between all three parties. And again, if these reports are true, it's good business. And I feel that if we're losing money this year on Anthony, Rashford, Garnacho, Sancho in any way, shape or form, I'm more frustrated. The same as if we end up overpaying by 10, 20 million pounds for players. I'm more frustrated at that, losing the negotiations, than anything else. You know, I want the right profiles in. I want them at a sensible price. Then I go to the timely element. The timing isn't as important as the other two things in the long term for me. Another really good story tonight for Manchester United is, this is from Laurie Whitwell, and he says, as it stands, Rasmus Hoyland is likely to leave Manchester United rather than stay this summer. Now, again, this may be ignored by a lot of United fans, especially ones who are frustrated and angry. And as I've said about Arsenal, I get the frustrations with Man United. I know we're jaded, we're tired, we want things to run perfectly, we want to feel proud of our club. But this was a story a few weeks ago that made a lot of Manchester United fans angry when The Athletic reported that there was a chance United were going to give Rasmus Hoyland another year to prove himself. And I agree, if we do that, and that's a conscious decision, that's horrendous. What we're now hearing from the same outlet is that he's unlikely to be at the club next year. I'm sure we'll see the same United fans share this with as much vim. That's sarcasm. But I hope this comes to fruition. I hope this happens. I hope that we do move on from Rasmus Hoyland. I think it's very, very important for us to do that. Again, if we can get a good deal that makes us a profit, or at least break even, we still owe quite a lot of money on him. That will be a relatively positive element for us. I think what we may end up doing is a kind of loan covering his salary with an obligation to buy me. And I think we'll do that, maybe with a loan fee covering the cost for this year. And then the transfer fee doesn't have to be as high next year for us to make a profit against the book value, which is the important element. And I know people don't like the accounting in modern day football, but it's imperative. So look, some real positive news and updates tonight. But as ever, I want to get your thoughts and feelings on them. Do you believe the reports? Do you believe the stories? How do you see them working out? Leave us your comments below. Please make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you soon. Peace.